All right. Hey there, folks. We are live, I hope. I'm trying to do the Facebook group again. Oh my God. And it worked. It worked. All right. So I'm like sort of just reveling in the fact that I think the post in the group went live and the post on YouTube both went live. And I almost don't know how to deal with the fact that that actually worked. Oh, let's see. And hey, Len and Monique. Um, I haven't actually had a live in a little while, Monique. So that could be part of the issue for not having caught it. Um, but that's okay. Now if I can get Facebook to load, so I can actually put a comment in the group. How are folks doing though? Hey Stan, say hi, people, if you want to. Um, and also, as always, this is always like an ask me anything. So if you have any questions about anything that's going on, let me know. I'd be happy to chat about any topic. Of course, pertaining to, I mean, I guess you could talk about our move or anything obviously to do with advertising or marketing books. Um, let's see. Jill says it's not showing up in the group, but it should be. Oh, shoot. I don't know if it actually worked in the group. Yeah. Anyway, okay. I'm going to focus on who's actually here and what's actually working. So, Troy, Len, Jill, James, hey, folks, how are y'all doing? Um, I think I made the event in the, I thought I made it in the group, but instead it made it just on my page. So, whoops. And I might be streaming to my page twice now. But hey, that's fine. Doesn't hurt. Um, I hope that everybody's doing well, though. It's kind of a crazy time. Oh yeah, so what's your what for, Monique? Oh, am I actually here twice? I wouldn't be surprised if I'd actually just done this. Um, but yeah, so for those of you who don't know, we moved to Canada. All right, Kate, that's good to know. And by we, I mean me and Eva. Jill's gonna be visiting us in Canada for as long as they'll let her uh, tomorrow. So when she comes up, but Eva and I are officially moved here due to us being Canadian citizens. So that makes it nice and easy to do that. It was an event doing that, getting the big move going. Um, and like last Thursday, we've been packing for weeks. Last Thursday was the final big pack. The movers showed up um, Friday morning at 8:30 in the morning, and they brought a 34-foot tractor trailer truck, and we filled it. Plus, we half filled a 10-foot U-Haul and booted on up through a snowstorm in southern Maine to the border, crossed the border without like any issues. They didn't even like look at a single thing. They didn't open the trucks or anything. Didn't even look at the rabies certificates for our cats that we got because we were supposed to. Um, and we got here at like I want to say 3 in the afternoon to our new place in New Brunswick, and then the movers unloaded us, and so 2 days in and out, loaded up, unloaded, and even I've been here unpacking like crazy people ever since. Um, how far was the move? We just went from Boston to New Brunswick. So without a snowstorm, it's only about 6.5 hours tops. But with a snowstorm, it's about 9 hours, as it turns out. So that was a whole fun thing. This is so weird. Facebook seems entirely like it says I'm actually posting. I'm actually doing things in my, and I can't figure out how to get this to actually do a live in the group. I wonder if it's even possible anymore. Because when I go to do a live, I'm sorry, I'm kind of still caught up in this. Because go live. I don't know if this will work. The more the merrier. All right, so Monique says, I remember when we moved to Poland, I was worried they would make me go back to the US. We'd already sold the house. Hubby had to prove he was a citizen before I could apply. Yeah, it's a lot of stress, isn't it, Monique? I know, but you really wanted me to post in the group today, honey. So I'm like really trying to make it work. I want it to work. But maybe it won't. I'm also just worried that I'm posting twice. But I did see your comment, Gail, in the group about scroll stopping images, so I am going to talk about that today. It actually might be working in the group now. Anyway, but I definitely want to talk about that. Nope, it's not good. It hates me. It wants me to suffer. But before that, kind of just like some thoughts on the state of ads right now. From what I've seen, ads have been kind of shockingly just consistent through March and April. It does seem like lately there's a bit of a hump toward the end of the month where ads work better for like the last 2 weeks of the month than they do for the first 2 weeks of the month. That's happened for February and March. And so far seems to be happening in April, where there's been a bit of a dip at the beginning of April. And that does coincide with Facebook rolling out some new AI stuff. I feel like right now Facebook rolls out new AI models early in the month, and then they tune them throughout the month and they get better. Hey, Noah, how's it going? So I think that's been a thing that's definitely been happening. But there's not been they haven't been getting crazy expensive. Ads got a little bit more expensive, but they haven't gotten crazy expensive. And they're just sort of like decent right now, which is not uncommon for this time of year. Ads are usually great at the beginning of January. They dip hard in February insofar as effectiveness is concerned. And then they slowly climb until Mother's Day. And then Mother's Day until sort of the end of June, things kind of drop a bit again. And then they level out at the end of June. There's a really decent period, last 2 weeks of July, first 2 weeks of August, and then they dip again until the second week of September. October tends to run pretty well, as does November. Although last year was an anomaly. November doesn't usually dip in ad effectiveness until American Thanksgiving, but last year it dipped in ad effectiveness right after the election. So it's kind of like a snapshot of how the year generally goes. But things being like decent but not amazing are normal for spring. Something to keep an eye out for when you're thinking about your releases and any kind of ad spend changes you want to make is as we get into spring, and this tends to be true through May and June, is that if it's a really nice day in the northeast of the United States, or a nice weekend, I should say, especially if it's a nice weekend, in the northeast United States, which is where like a third of the American population lives, chances are reads will go down. So if you're like, my God, my reads this last weekend were really terrible, you're like, oh, it was a beautiful day in New York. That's probably why, because in spring people are like, dear God, get me outside on a nice day, and then they go do that. So that's something to think about with sort of how stuff goes. Then says, I was just throwing money away, need to reconfigure and come back with something shouting out my reader magnet. Yeah, Reader, if you're having trouble getting like sales ads going, Reader Magnet's always a great option to go with instead, because you can you get the opportunity to reach these people more. So you'll spend like 30 cents, maybe 40 cents to get a reader, but then you can market them multiple times. You can try and catch them with different phrasing and whatnot. So it oftentimes is a better way to go versus, a click once, and if they don't convert, they're gone kind of situation. So I'm always big about Reader Magnets. Yeah, it's kind of nippy here as well, Noah. I'm actually not 100% sure what the temperature is, but it felt cold when I took the trash down to the curb today. 45 Fahrenheit, so not too bad. 45 Fahrenheit. What is that in Celsius, man? I have to get used to both of these things. But that kind of Len's comment, and while I was talking with Len, well, that's nice, Monique. Kind of ties in with what Gail was asking about, how she seems to be having an issue getting like scroll stopping ads. I actually even saw an ad for someone talking about selling a product, a methodology that would get you going with scroll stopping ads. And it was funny because I'm always tempted by that. I always get FOMO, right? Like, what does this person who's teaching about scroll stopping ads know that I don't know? And all of the comments were like, sure, it's only a $7 course, but it's also something you can get for free by just looking on YouTube and getting the basic information off YouTube. And I kind of dug in a bit more, and it was a lot of the basics like high contrast, readability, easy single center focus, all that sort of thing. So nothing super complicated that that person needs to worry about. Yeah, watching the lead ad webinar would be good. And we're also going to be talking about reader magnet ads in the next advanced Facebook ad session. I was going to do the next Facebook advanced ad session tomorrow, but it's been a while since we've done anything. So I actually want to do a Q&A instead, just to make sure that I get people, if anybody has anything pressing, any issues they're dealing with, they want like their ads reviewed or something like that, we can do that in a Q&A tomorrow. It is a bit earlier though. It's going to be at 9 a.m. Eastern because I have to go meet Jill at the border. But we'll be doing a Q&A, and maybe if you come then as well, Gail, we could like even look at some of the ads you've been making. Jill's going to put up a thread in school for those of you who are in school, and people can, if you have any like images you want to post up there, you can do it. So easy center focus, yeah. And so what I mean by that is you don't want a busy image. You know, like maybe it's a woman standing in a garden, and there's lots of rose bushes behind her, and a castle behind her, and a carriage, and a guy standing beside the carriage, and she's wearing a floral dress, and behind her are flowers, you know, that sort of thing. Like it's a busy image, and she doesn't jump out as the center focus, you know. Whereas if she was sort of standing there on a field, and maybe there's a castle in the distance or something like that, just as my random example, that would make it easier to focus on her as being the thing. Or if you want to like sell the fantasy angle, maybe there's just a castle. And that's something to try too. Like if you're trying to do it with a character focused image and it's not working, you can always do, I think Jill's just, oh, Danica added the thread yesterday. Good. If you're trying character images and you're not getting, people aren't being grabbed, then try a setting image, try the castle, try like the manor house, try the, contemporary romance is a bit trickier, but it can work. You can find like something like iconic, just kind of the same way that people do object covers. You can do the same sort of thing with just about anything, just by sort of trying to find some objects or imagery that conveys what you want. So you could try doing that. And of course, there's always video. You could always try doing reels, because a lot of times those are a lot cheaper. They don't convert quite as well, but they're so much cheaper usually on the clicks that they make up for that. So that's an angle you could go to. So you want to have just one centrally focused. By center, you don't have to be like in the center of the image. Like sometimes like having like half a guy's face kind of off the side, can be kind of cool. You kind of get the smolder on, and then that could leave you some blank space for putting some text. Like maybe like his face is illuminated, but goes into shadow, and then there's a big dark area, and you can put your text there on the right. Like there's lots of things you could do to make it so that the image, that the focal point of the image is very clear. And then there's a non-busy area to put some text in it as well. And then of course, always put the book cover on it too. So the magical library. Okay. That one could be a little bit tricky, right? Because it's going to be a busy image by default. So you have to figure out a way can you do a magical library where it's not busy? Like maybe part of it fades into darkness or something like that, or there's fog, so they can make one part of the image like an easy focus. Maybe like some stacks, a book, magic coming out of it, fog, dark fog, and then your text is over that. Something that makes it just a little bit easier to find stuff. Eva, our daughter, is messaging me. Let's go let her know. I gotta manage our daughter as well. So that might be something to think about. So there's just your base imagery. So it's got to be readable and easy to focus on. And then of course it has to be high contrast. The bright parts need to be really bright, and the dark parts need to be really dark, because it's all sort of the same brightness level. It also makes it hard to focus on what the focal point is on the image. And also the high contrast will make it stand out more on Facebook. Now, if you're unsure of how to tell if an image is high contrast, just find an online video or image editing tool and change the image to black and white. If it's really easy to make out the central image of the picture by doing black and white, then you know it's high contrast. If everything sort of just becomes like middling shades of gray, that tells you it's a low contrast image. Sort of a nice, easy way to sort of do that hack. Also, interesting side note, that trick works for book covers as well, and it also works to make sure that your text is more legible and my brain got ahead of my mouth. And that it's for people who have color blindness. It's more readable as well, because if you have color blindness, depending on the type of color blindness, a lot of times they'll see a certain color as gray, or they might see it as the next color instead. So instead of seeing like a blue or a purple, they might see a purple as a blue. So if you have something that's purple and blue, they'll see both of them as blue and not be able to tell them apart. So that can happen too. So black and white, switching your image to black and white can help a lot in just sort of checking it over. And then the next thing is the text, and the text needs to be something that's really going to grab people's attention, and it needs to pose a question that it doesn't actually have to be an actual question, but like it needs to put a question in people's minds that does not have a yes or no answer. So that could be something like, I don't know, you've got a wall, and it looks barren on one side, but over the other side, you can see like trees and vines and greenery or something like that. And the question could be, 5 years, or it could be like, so maybe it says like 5 years ago, she disappeared beyond the wall. Now it's up to him to find her, or something like that. Or she came back completely changed, and now needs to leave again. I don't know, I'm making up a book off the top of my head, but you get the idea. Like something that just sort of like implies wonder and makes people wonder what's there. And like the picture of the wall, the image of the wall with the greenery beyond can inspire the question on its own, even because whenever you see a wall with stuff hidden, you're like, what's on the other side of the wall? And if you give people like a reason to go across the wall, like, to find somebody or to learn something, or maybe like to do the quest or something like that, then that could work. And maybe that might be a thing with the magical library as well. Sorry, I'm just thinking, what about a gargoyle image with the text someone is watching over? Gargoyles are hard to get, but you could try that, yeah. But that's less of a question. It's more of a statement. You could maybe turn to a question like no matter where she goes, she always feels like someone's watching her, or something like that. Maybe make it a little bit creepy, maybe make it a little bit, you could play it either way. You could play that creepy, you could play it romantic, but don't be too on the nose when you're trying to create the feeling of wonder. What, how, why, not will. I'm not sure exactly what you mean there, Len, but I think I'm following along. I've done too many, care to find out. Oh, sweet romance, I guess, and you can't get too dark with that. So you could be like, no matter what danger she wanders into, someone's always watching over her, or come what may, or you can maybe phrase it something like that. So that can work. But you want to have a question there. Why is he watching over her? Why does she need to be watched over? That sort of thing should be conveyed in there as well in some fashion. So we have to have some sense of what the rationale for the reasoning for her being watched over would be. I'm guessing I think we've talked about this a little bit before, but the magical library. One of my lights just turned off. The magical library takes her places, right? I mean, that's the whole point of the magical library, right? It takes you places. So you could just instead try advertising imagery with one of the places that she ends up. Where does she go? What mysteries does she encounter? And have something like that. So that could absolutely work too. And we don't have to always just show the magical library. We could show the romance. We could show the specific element of the adventure. Stuff like that could also work for you too. So you might have to play around a bit to try and find some imagery. Do some testing and see what grabs people more. And you could also try doing some images. I don't know if you've tried this before or not, but the images where there's no image at all. It's just like blue a blue background with white text on it or something, or whatever color you think sort of works for you. And you could try that. A lot of times when no imagery seems to work, sometimes just the words will do the trick. So that could absolutely be something you could consider as well. Hey Pippa, I got a can you, but that's it. I'm guessing you accidentally hit enter. So I'll wait a minute. But hopefully you can't hear. I don't think you probably won't be able to hear it. We're renting half a house right now, which is it's huge. It's a huge house. So this half a house is still a 4-bedroom house, and the landlord is renovating the next portion of the house. He lives here, and he's going to rent part of it as an Airbnb. So it could be as many as 3 different people here, but it's such a big area, and the view that we have out our window in the morning is just gorgeous. It's a hillside going down to this massive lake with islands on it, and a lot of times there's fog in the mornings. It's utterly gorgeous. St. John is like really weird. We're in St. John, New Brunswick, in that it's like a very industrial, like blue collar kind of town because it's like a shipping port on the East Coast. But I tell you, this place could brand itself as like an amazing picturesque adventure wonderland, and it would do so well. I feel like they've definitely missed out on pulling people up here for this. It's like New Hampshire, but prettier, to be honest. Awesome. That sounds great, Gail. I look forward to seeing what you put together. People says, can you please comment on sales in April? Mine have been awful, worst in years. Do you think it's a general reaction to the Trump thing, Amazon boycotts? I believe it or not, I'm actually seeing some people who are doing fabulous and some people that are doing bad, which is why you might have missed early on. I was talking about how, from what I've been seeing sort of across the board, on average, April has been okay. Not amazing, not terrible, just okay. And it can be genre specific. If you're writing stuff that's angsty, people might not want to read angst. And maybe if you're writing stuff that's too close to home, they don't want to read that either. I do think that there's a bit of a general downturn that is related to economic uncertainty. Although Forbes just did a poll recently in the United States, and they determined that the average person's view of the economy is unchanged since early January. So most people, I don't know if they haven't gotten the message or something like that, but most people aren't viewing the economy as too bad right now. I think there is some uncertainty, but usually spending on things like books doesn't change. But maybe people aren't spending as much time doing some of the things they were doing before, and that could be it. But like I said, I see some people that are actually doing even better. Like my books are selling better this year than they were last year with the same amount of advertising. So it's kind of, it doesn't seem to be universal in that regard. I do wonder though, and this is an element that I haven't fully dug into yet, is if people are like 90-95% US readership, that they might be seeing a bit more of a bump, negative impact, I should say, than people that are like maybe only 60 to 70% US readership. So I think it is a good time for us to really take a look and be like, are we reaching? Could we be reaching people outside the US more? Could we be focusing more on the UK, Canada? Even if you don't have translations, Germany can still be an option. Australia is still an option too, even though Canada's population has grown quite a bit more than Australia's has. Pardon me, so something to consider there. I think that I have seen, Facebook rolled out a bunch of AI updates to how they do targeting on ads in early April. And I have seen some accounts that did have a noticeable dip early April. And I wonder if it's just that the AI can't interpret what their ads are about as well. And I was actually talking with a Facebook rep about this today on the phone, because they were giving me the usual spiel. And it was interesting because I contacted them because of an ad that got shut off, because the AI interprets the ad as about the content of the book, not about the book. So it's like, you're trying to advertise XYZ because that's a scenario in the book. And it's like, no, I'm advertising a fictional story about XYZ, which is not the same thing at all. And the right Facebook rep totally understood that and submitted for a manual review of the ad by a human. Um, and and then she went on her spiel about like doing certain things and whatnot. And I said, the problem with, like, explain to her the problem with using all this, the Facebook's AI targeting, is it has the same problem that the bots that will reject ads have. It misinterprets what the book is about. It thinks it thinks the ad is actually an ad for what happens to the characters, the content of the book, not a book about these things. So sometimes things go sideways, especially if you're running ads, and Facebook makes a change. Now, for Pippa and Kate, if you guys aren't heavily advertising right now, then it could be a change in sentiment of readers. It could be just one of the weird. If you're relying a lot on organic activity from Amazon, it could be an algorithmic change on Amazon, or maybe some of your books aged out from a particular level of rank they had, or a boost they had from something in the past. So that could be it too. But usually, if something like that happens, if you see like a nosedive, and by nosedive I'm thinking something more than a 50% decrease that happens on a particular day, that means you're dealing with some sort of programmatic change, either with the advertisements or the retailer, and you almost need to like kind of like start a new thing to kind of fix that. So if you're not running ads, then maybe you need to do a price change and do a big sale, and that will kind of like shift where your book is sitting in the algorithm. And if you are doing ads, then you need to decrease your spend on your current ads and fire up some brand new campaigns with some new content to try to get those to take off as well. It's 100% decrease. Yeah, so I'm assuming you killed off all the ads that you were running, right? And I did talk to a Facebook human. Yeah. You can go to the support thing by clicking the question mark in Ad Manager and then start a chat. It did take a day because basically what happens if you start the chat, it starts the chat with your account rep. And my account rep, the account rep for this account was off yesterday, so she responded today, and then we actually had a call because the account reps are always eager to talk to you on the phone. So I think that's kind of why they've done this, is they're using it as a way to get the account reps to talk to people. So yeah, it was interesting though. She was really nice and did get a bunch of stuff done for me. Killed them all off. I'll try again, but it's devastating. Yeah, it is. But also, Pippa, you have to remember, it always happens. Maybe doesn't happen as dramatically as it did this time to you, but all ads die, and they never die at a convenient time. They always die it seems like in the most inconvenient way possible, whatever that ends up being. Slow so you don't notice right away, or fast so it just sucks terribly. But when it happens, you gotta stop doing what's not working, because bad ads will just soak up your money. So you did the right thing by killing them off, and you gotta try something new. And maybe if you weren't running any reels, maybe now it's time to start a reel. Or if you were really reel heavy, maybe switch over to doing some still image ads. Try to hit on a different element of the story. Maybe if you're really character focused, maybe you could add in a bit of setting, either in the text of the ad or in the imagery or something like that, to try and like just change things up and see if you can get your next ad to appeal to a different group, and try to find new people in the audience. I think that could be it, Pippa. Yeah, and sometimes, like, for whatever reason, the algorithm will periodically just sort of like reevaluate the audience that it's going to be showing an ad to, and start showing your ad to someone else entirely. And I do really think it's because the AI, especially when it comes to books, just doesn't seem to understand what books are about, and that causes these problems that we're hitting. Part of the thing too is when Facebook is doing ads and trying to figure out who to show ads to, it weights on socioeconomical status a lot more than it weights on like what the actual people. Like if you think about, when we're trying to find people who are like it's like, okay, these people clicked, I need to find more people like them. It's not like, oh, I need to find more people who read this kind of book. It's like, no, I need to find more people who have this amount of money and live in this area and are college educated. And I would not be shocked if ethnicity and other things is in play behind the scenes. Even if it's not like deliberate and explicit, I think just sort of like people of different ethnicities and backgrounds are more likely to do certain things. Like if you grouped people by people who did a certain thing, you might find more people of a certain ethnicity in that group. So I think whether Facebook wants to or not, I'd bet my bottom dollar that that factors in. So it's that kind of thing that they build ad audiences around. It's not really what book people like to read. And so the problem is when the AI decides to shift or reevaluate an ad, it can just totally get it wrong, unfortunately. Oh, that's awesome, Megan. It's an interesting time to be in marketing, isn't it? And hi, Mr. Pirate comment up there. Yes, yeah, Kate, I completely agree. Kate says I feel like I should be highlighting some of these comments. I can always tell my Facebook shows my ads to a different group of people through the attribution. Like you absolutely can, because you'll see like you oftentimes you'll see more clicks, because when it kicks in, well, if you see more clicks, so suddenly like your clicks are going along here, the blue line, and suddenly it rockets up, that means that your cost per click just dropped dramatically. And that usually happens when Facebook kicks your ad back into learning phase. And then you'll usually see your reads plummet at the same time. And that's a sign that Facebook is now showing your ads to someone new. Sometimes it self-corrects and sometimes it doesn't. So a lot of that depends on like kind of like what kind of like spare cash and or time you have to see if Facebook will self-correct or not. Oh, you must be running Advantage Plus ads, Pippa. You need to turn the Advantage Plus stuff off. When you go to your audience section, there will be a piece of text at the bottom right that says use original audience options. If you don't do that, then it basically ignores the gender and the interest that you put in. So you definitely want to do that. So that's like one of my first recommendations to people is always turn off Advantage Plus audiences, because it'll hop genders, it'll hop age ranges, it'll jump out of your interests right away. You need to swap back to original audience options, because yeah, otherwise it'll just show them to whoever they want. About marketing, Megan says, I love it because it's constantly evolving. Right now, things are particularly mind-boggling. Yes, that is accurate, and you're right. It is constantly mind-boggling. Yeah, I've been in some fashion or another involved in the marketing of a variety of different businesses since like 2001, actually, but more heavily involved in marketing, probably starting around 2010, because I was in product development at that point. So we actually had to build our products to market. So I was always heavily involved with the marketing team. And then come 2016, then it's been all Facebook ads ever since. Laura, it'd be awesome to see you. Maybe we'll see you soon, but I am safe. I'm here. Tomorrow I go back to the border to fetch Jill, because we're bringing our car up, and so Jill's going to handle the exporting of the car from the United States. Because you actually, interesting side note, if you want to move a car from one country to another, even if it's a car that's like worth like $4,400, which is what our car is worth, we sold our newer car and bought an older one because they're easier to get across the border. But even for cars worth, I have computers, they're worth as much as that darn car. But anyway, you have to export the car and then import the car. So Jill's going to export the car at the US side of the border, and then I will handle the importing of the car, because we didn't put her name on the forms because we didn't think we could, because she's not a Canadian. So I have to be there for the importing of the vehicle. But yes, that'll be part of my day tomorrow. It's going to be exciting times. But the people at the border on the Canadian side are like the nicest, most pleasant people in the universe. So it's going to be really easy to get everything done. I'm pretty stoked. Monique says, we sold his Durango and I gave my Beetle to my daughter. We don't need a vehicle here. Do you live like in a city where there's like really good public transportation? We live, in a city, but we live like in a subdivision out beyond everything. Like we are 7 minutes away from the nearest anything. There is one restaurant 4 minutes away, and no gas stations. And this is driving, right? Like walking, it'd be like 45, 50 minutes. There's no buses out here. We're like in the boonies. I'm almost surprised that this is part of the main city. It's kind of shocking that the city limits extend this far. But it's so beautiful. Like the very first day we were here, Sunday morning, walk out the front door and there's 4 deer. And they were like around all day. We saw these deer just wandering around all day. It's pretty cool. Yeah, I'm excited for my new adventures too. It's pretty sweet. Oh, that's okay, honey. I knew it was this remote. I looked up where it was in the maps. Um, but I think it's pretty gorgeous out here. Um, and it's like we're like driving past like YMCA camps and stuff like that next to it. Like it's like, honey, it's like we're living like across the river in North Conway on the nobody lives here side of the river. It's pretty cool. Um, you did not make a mistake picking it. Trust me, honey. When you see the view out the kitchen window in the morning, you're never going to want to leave this place. It's unbelievable how beautiful it is. Um, yeah, I'm really okay with St. John. Um, the worst part about being here is the fact that we actually don't own this home and eventually we'll have to leave. I'm gonna need to find a place with a view this good. It's kind of crazy. Uh, Eva loves it here. She's actually doing great. Sorry, for those of you on Facebook, you might not see Jill's questions, but she's asking a few questions. She thinks it's amazing. She loves the view. She's actually doing really well with how quiet it is here. Um, I know I could kind of tell, honey. I'm not upset at all. Um, we'll need to get snow tires for the winter time, but aside from that, we're gonna be all right. Yeah, Nova Scotia could be nice too. There's gonna be. You were the one, honey, who said that you want to continue to live on the coast, and you made the right call because it's like more beautiful than New Hampshire. Like I said up here, it's unbelievable how beautiful it is here. So I'm pretty happy with it. Sorry, segue about the move, But and for those of you who are curious, I moved out of the United States along with Eva for all the reasons you'd expect that we moved out of the United States because it ain't super safe for people like me. Yeah, I bet Nova Scotia is beautiful. What I'm curious about is if Nova Scotia has as many hills as we have here in St. John, because I love all of the hills here. It's really cool. That's cool, Troy. Yeah, any reason to get up to St. John is good. That's right. Where do you live in St. John, Janet? I'm curious. Uh, it's okay, honey. You don't need to be sorry. Jill has not yet come to Canada and got the Canadian Zen infusion that I've gotten. Um, and like we crossed the border, we had the nicest gay guy who was our the agent. He actually processed us because first you have to come in, you come in through the border, so they make sure you have your passport and all that jazz, and then you have to do customs for all of your stuff. So we actually got him on both, for both of those things, and he was just like super nice. It was amazing. Okay, I was wondering if it was as hilly here there it is as here. I feel like St. John is like an underrated city. It's absolutely gorgeous here in St. John, and the housing is about honestly almost half the cost that it is in St. John. That's like the biggest reason why I'm not super keen. Sorry, housing in St. John is almost half of what it is in Halifax. The thing I think is Halifax is a super cool city, and everybody knows it, so everybody's there. And everybody thinks St. John is like this kind of industrial blue collar kind of town that's maybe a little bit dirtier than it should be because it has like the paper mill downtown and stuff like that. And they might be kind of right, but I think it's still pretty awesome here. And I was even able to register to vote in the election in like 11 days or whatever. It's on the 28th. So I'm stoked about that. It'll be my first time voting in 25 years because I was never a resident, I never a citizen of the United States, so I could never vote down there. Yeah, Carmen, it's pretty nuts, isn't it? It's an unexpected turn of events, that's for sure. Or the strength of the turn is certainly unexpected. I know, Megan. I'm totally voting. Apparently, my new chiropractor said that the Liberal candidate is kind of annoying, but better than the alternative. I didn't want to talk too much politics with my on her upon first meeting her, so I didn't ask her why he's annoying. But I thought that was kind of a funny comment. But I think it's impossible. It would be impossible for the events that are going on to not affect our businesses. And I think as a result, everybody is rightfully concerned about your business, about how well book sales are going to continue to go, and how well finances and readership and all sorts of things like that are concerned. And so, it wasn't Carney; it was just a local person, honey. His name is Wayne Long. Wayne Long is the Liberal candidate, and Melissa Young is the Conservative candidate. For those of you who live in the United States, most of the world uses a parliamentary system for their governments. I might be talking to you like your children. I apologize for that. It's not kind of how I meant to do that, but it is a different system than what Americans are used to. In a parliamentary system, you don't vote for your prime minister. You vote for your local representative, and then whichever party has the most representatives, the leader of that party becomes the prime minister. And that's how the Canadian prime minister changed from Justin Trudeau to Mark Carney without an election. Because when Justin Trudeau stepped down, Mark Carney became the party leader, and so he became the prime minister. So you don't so in a parliamentary system, you don't vote for the prime minister. They're just whoever leads the party. So they might be like a representative from some random district. It'd be basically like having your one senator, the senator who's the leader of the Republican Party. Like, let's say a senator was elected as the leader of the Republican Party, that senator would become president, just automatically. That's how it would happen, in something like the parliamentary system. Now, some countries run a system sort of dual thing. They have a prime minister and a president. So the prime minister is the leader of the party with the most seats, and then the president is elected separately, and they have separate powers. So it's kind of a different system. Hey, Christina. And in some regards, it's supposed to create more checks and balances, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't, because like Putin, for example, was president and prime minister, and he alternated between them when he hit like term limits and stuff like that. So I kind of prefer the parliamentary system as well, because it's better suited to getting more parties in play, and then you can form minority governments. So if no party gets more than 50% of the votes, then they'll have to band together with another party to form a government. I feel like it brings about more compromise in how the government works. It's less one party gets control and does whatever they want, and then another party gets control and does whatever they want. It creates a more cooperative system. Yeah, it's true, Len. MPs cover thousands of people, which is a bit different. So those are Mal's random thoughts on governments, which people may or may not want. But what I really want to say regarding all of this, though, is that the message, I think, or the takeaway that authors should have, and honestly any business person should have, is we need to diversify. And for many of us, the United States represents like 90% of our book sales, because quite frankly, it's where Facebook ads are the most effective. So it makes sense to run Facebook ads in the United States, because that's like the #1 way to get sales going. And then that's going to, but that does, of course, if it concentrates your readership in the United States, and if something bad happens in the United States, then you have readership problems. So we need to really be focusing on like our #2 market, which is the United Kingdom. There's 80 million people there. And we need to be working on getting books going there. And whether that's Facebook or AMS, we should be doing that. Canada's a good option. 41 million people in Canada. Australia and New Zealand collectively are a little bit over 35, I think. There's even South Africa. If Sudan wasn't completely war-torn, I feel like they would have been an upcoming option. That's like just horrifying what's been happening in Sudan. Like, they go to have an election and their country just disintegrates as a result. But there are 220 million English speakers. Or is it Niger? I think it's Sudan that has 220 million English speakers in the country. It's kind of wild. So maybe eventually they'll actually get that sorted out, and things can take off there. I feel like that's a selfish thing to say. Like, I want them to do better so I can sell them books. I don't know what's going to happen overnight, but there might be certain people's books who could sell really well in Sudan. I don't know that mine would, but it's that's really good, Kate. You're definitely breaking the norm there. 55 US, 45 UK is amazing. So that's like really good for you. Do you advertise a lot in the UK, or are you advertising most in the US, and your books just happen to sell well in the UK as well? Kind of curious about that. But and even if even if you're like, well, Gmail, all of those is Sudan notwithstanding, and India is like a huge English speaking place, but you can't sell that many books to them. They're not interested generally reading our books for reasons I don't quite understand yet. It's like on my to-do list to dig into that, but I've never gotten to it. But it still doesn't equal the population of the United States. Basically the British Commonwealth minus India together does not equal the population of the United States. So what do you do then? Well, then I think it's we got to start thinking about, like, can I sell English books in Germany? You absolutely can. And can I do translations? And you absolutely can. And so Scribe Shadow is a great way to start doing translations. I recommend starting with France, quite honestly. France is the gold rush place right now, because they're dying for genre fiction, and we can finally get them genre fiction on the cheap. So I think that could be something to do. But yeah, it's going to be big on diversifying. It'll be good for us authors to be diversifying. I also think that okay, so Kate continues to run ads to the UK. That's good. That's good. I'm kind of curious if your UK ads took as much of a hit as your US ads did, because that could also help you determine, was it a thing with this global politics, or was it an algorithmic thing? Because algorithmic could hit both places simultaneously, but global politics likely won't have the same impact in both places. Or actually, I mean, non-global politics. Yeah, Scribe Shadow. Lisa had it there for you folks. This is that's the place that has really cheap translations. Like, you can AI translate a whole book for about $50. And I'm less and less keen on AI than I have been previously, and I'm mostly not too keen on AI because I don't like the corporate ownership of AI. But I feel like we got to do what we got to do to survive, and so that's definitely an option. Yeah, and I think that's largely population related, Kate, for why your UK ads die faster than US ads. There's just 1/3 fewer people, so you're going to exhaust your audience 3 times faster in the UK. It's kind of all there is to it. Yeah, this makes sense, Megan. By doing both with readers and with other authors and people who have influence in the industry, you never know when an opportunity might arise that you might not have gotten if you hadn't made a connection with people and built some community. So I definitely think that makes a ton of sense. So I think that's kind of all I have to say today. I'm still kind of getting my brain back together after the move. As you can see, I'm still surrounded with boxes, which means I have tons of stuff to do. But we're getting there. And Eva was actually sick after the move. She got pretty sick on the drive up even. But today she's been doing better. And she actually did a bunch of work in her room, which is nice. So I'm feeling good about that. And then tomorrow we'll have Jill. And so we'll really be able to, like, get the house going, because it needs Jill as well. Carmen says, I've signed over 2 series to publishers. I can focus on a new one. That's not a bad move. If you can find a decent publisher that can take some of your mind off of some of the business stuff, so you can just focus on the writing, that's not terrible. And the one that James Blatch is involved in, he used to be with Mark Dawson. I've been hearing really good things about that. So that might be something for people to consider. Ooh, a 20% off coupon. That sounds really good. So yeah. Yeah, I played around Scribe Shadow and it looks super promising as well. But I must jet because I've got some more calls this afternoon. But it was really good for my soul to be here with all you folks. I think that a lot of my mental stability since for the last 6 years has come from being part of such an amazing community as the author community. You guys are absolutely the best. And like the most welcoming, accepting people out there. And I think that, there's warts, like there are, if I like the word warts, I don't want to think of someone as a wart, but the author community has problems, just like any other community, but I really do feel like in general, it's like one of the best communities to be involved with. So I'm super happy to have you guys in my life. And it was nice to do this and see everybody again. And I'll be back next week again too. Although I don't know, do I need to change the name? Because I'm in a different time zone. New Brunswick is in Atlantic time. So for me, this is like 1:50. Is this still lunch with Mal? I don't know. Or is it, maybe it could become afternoon tea with Mal or something like that. Who knows? Thank you, Megan. Thank you, Kate, as well. Love it. Yes, I will be getting some sleep, Gail. Absolutely. Oh, look at that. Joel, they're in the same wavelength. Tea time with Mal. That'd be kind of fun, right? I could have like tea, be sipping my tea and everything. Late lunch, yeah. Oh, no problem at all, Stan. I had a blast. I'll probably see you sprinting this afternoon in an hour and a little bit as well. Oh, that works. Look at that, Janet. Janet's on. Wait, you're in Halifax. How come you're having a lunch break right now? It's like almost 2 o'clock for you too. Crazy. All right, yes, tea and scones with Mal. That's what it's going to be. We totally did depth. Thank you very much. I'm super happy with where we are. I love it a lot. It's going to make a really wonderful home. But let's chat. So I will see all of you fabulous folks next week. Of course, if you're in school, you can join the sprint this afternoon. In an hour, we're sprinting for 2 hours, running sprints. And then tomorrow at 10 a.m. Eastern, we're doing a Q&A on Facebook ads. So if you're in school, you can join that too. I suppose they can. Yes, they can. All right. Bye, everyone. Have a fabulous day and a great weekend. We'll see you later. Ciao.